Good evening, everyone from Nairobi, Kenya. Greetings to anyone joining us from around the world. Thank you for joining this evening's Africa in the Moot session. Welcome to Vienna. My name is Winnie Nakazikberu. I am Teams Coordination Committee at Africa in the Moot, and this evening I will be co-moderating alongside my colleague Silke Schusser, the Deputy begin, I would like to give a general overview of Africa in the Moot. Africa in the Moot is a volunteer-based non-profit organization that seeks to support talented young African law students to participate in esteemed international commercial arbitration moots, such as the Willem C. Vis Moot. Once again, thank you for joining us, and I will gladly hand over to my colleague, Silke.
Hello, everybody, and good evening from Vienna. I have the great honor to introduce our speaker of today, and who is not only a star in the Austrian arbitration scene, but also well beyond the borders of Austria. Everybody meet Dr. Nikolaus Pitkowitz. He is a founding partner and head of dispute resolution at Pitkowitz & Partner, and he's also the president of the Vienna International Arbitral Center, short the VIAC. He is one of the leading Austrian arbitration practitioners and has helped in shaping the Austrian arbitration landscape. He has acted as party counsel and arbitrator in over 130 international disputes, ranging from smaller to multi-billion cases located in Europe, the United States, and Asia. Most notable in his role as counsel in the largest ever pending arbitration in Austria, as well as in arbitration seated across Europe, in the Americas, and in Asia. He holds a law degree from the University of Vienna, and also at St. Gallen University, and he is also qualified and certified as a mediator, which is especially relevant for this year's Vis Moot case. He also frequently speaks, holds lectures, and is the author of over 50 publications, including a monograph on the setting aside of arbitral awards and the handbook on third-party funding in international arbitration. He's also the co-editor of the Austrian Yearbook on International Arbitration and one of the co-organizers of the Vienna Arbitration Days. And we are very, very happy to have him as a speaker and as a supporter of Africa in the Moot. Welcome, Dr. Pitkowitz.
Thank you very much, Silke, for this very flattering introduction, and also thank you, Winnie and Silke, for inviting me to speak to you today. What I'm going to walk you through in the next approximately 30 minutes, and I understand that we will also have some time for questions, is the background of Vienna being the host of the Vis Moot, then the relationship of the Vis Moot to international arbitration, the relationship and role of Vienna in the field of international arbitration, and then speaking a little bit about the Vis Moot and the coming Vis Moot, the participants, and I understand many of our audience today are participants who will be coming to Vienna for the first time very soon, what to expect, what to prepare, and what to see and find in Vienna. Then role of the coaches and role also of the arbitrators, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So let me start, and please feel free to interrupt, Silke, Winnie, if you have any additions or follow-up questions on the general introduction of the Vis Moot. The Vis Moot was started by Professor Eric Bergsten over 30 years ago. Actually, this year we have the 31st Vis Moot, which gives you exactly the starting day, which was 1993. And anybody know why it's called Vis Moot? Vis Moot is the name because this was actually the idea was generated together by Eric Bergsten, who was at that time secretary of the UNCITRAL, with Willem C. Vis, who was a colleague of his, and they jointly developed that. And Willem C. Vis, unfortunately, died at the very first year of the Vis Moot, so he never got really to live and realize what has been set up. But he is remembered forever because the Vis Moot is carrying his name. But the person really who stands behind this is Eric Bergsten. Eric Bergsten has been initially running the Vis Moot all by himself, and he later gained a team of more and more persons supporting him, including his daughter, who is now one of the directors of the Vis Moot, and a team of students, associate, and voluntary supporters. So the Vis Moot started in 1993, and this brings me to VIAC, the Vienna International Arbitral Center, of which, as you heard, I have the honor of being the president. And Eric reached out and said, "So where can we host the Vis Moot?" And said, and VIAC at that time, Werner Mehli, said, "Well, let's do it at VIAC." And so the first, I think, 6 or 7 events, it was hosted at the premises of the Vienna International Arbitral Center. And it started with just a few teams, 5 teams, then 10 teams, then 20 teams. And the teams came, and when they started, I'll put it in a different way. The concept of Eric Bergsten from the very beginning was that this is to be an educational event. And the prime idea is to educate students in understanding international arbitration, but primarily the CISG, because that was the idea really, that he wanted to promote this UNCITRAL sales law, which he thought would be best promoted by having a arbitration case which circles around the CISG. Now we have, as you probably realize, many more aspects and many more elements. And the CISG, of course, is always at the core, but it's has become one of the main events for international arbitration. It's an event for arbitration institution. It's an event for universities. And one very important aspect, it's a recruiting event. So many young students come there and are being monitored by law firms who are looking for associates and see them, meet them. And there are quite a few international law firms who send a few partners to Vienna just in order to be able to recruit the best, because the Vis Moot, being participant at the Vis Moot means that you are top and you have achieved a lot. You've been awarded the opportunity to participate. You've awarded the opportunity to demonstrate your skills, and you have invested a lot of effort for you to come to Vienna. And Silke is is not.
Yes.
I know that for her was a very big investment, and
It was.
and I only understood this because both of my children have participated as Vis Mooties in the Vis Moot, and for my son, he did this in, I think, 2010, so it's 15 years ago, and he was, I think he slept for 4 days in a row afterwards because it was draining so much of his energy. So be prepared when you come to Vienna that this will be quite quite an event, and it was training him because he spent not only the days arguing and supporting his team and listening to other arguments and just preparing, but also very long nights. At that time, it wasn't Ogazel, but it was a different place, and they came home, I think, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they started at 8 o'clock next day or even earlier. So that was, I think that's part of the Vis Moot, is not only to be competing, but also to meet and interact. And there are many friendships, relationships which are forged there and created there, which last a lifetime. And I know from my son and my daughter, they still have friends which they met at the Vis Moot, and which they have, where they still have a very good and tight relationship. And Silke is nodding. I'm sure you also have many friends from your time at the Vis Moot, and I'm sure you're going to meet, and each one of you participating, many wonderful people from different cultures from all around the world. And what is so great is they're all open and they're all happy, and they're very really sort of positive in getting and making new relationships and friendships. And this is something which I think all of you should utilize and for the best purpose, make use of that. And how do you do this? And I'm going to now sort of getting a little bit off the track, but I think this is what you also want to understand, is how to best prepare and how to meet people. So when you come to Vienna, what some teams do is they approach other teams beforehand. So how do you do this? You Google them, because quite a few teams have their own websites. I didn't realize that, but I spoke to one of my colleagues and associate in our firm. She trains the team of the WU Vienna, and we just have the entire team which came to a training session to our offices next doors. And they when they go to premoots, they go and reach out to teams, and they have quite a few teams that have reached out to them because they're coming to Vienna. So you do this by Googling them or by Instagram. Many teams have their Instagram pages, and I don't know if there are any other advice you can give Silke or Winnie how to. Winnie, I didn't ask, did you also participate in the Vis Moot?
Yes, I participated in the 28th Vis Moot.
All right, good. So I'm the only one here who has not directly participated, but I've been arbitrating many Vis Moots, and every time you arbitrate the Vis Moot, you can't see that. It's somewhere here in the back. You can see this.
That is an impressive collection.
I have quite a collection of cups because you get it for every time you participate. So you engage with the teams, and then there are a few events which I recommend that you participate. The first one is on Thursday. There is a welcome party by the Moot Alumni Association, which is a €10, I think, entrance fee, which is a sort of the first starting and opening point. Then, and this is something which you mustn't miss, is the official opening ceremony. The official opening ceremony is at the concert hall, which is a building which is right next to my offices. If I screen out the window here, you can see part of it, and it's the biggest concert halls of Vienna. It fits, I think, 2,000 people, and there are more than 2,000 people coming to the Vis Moot. The doors open this year, I think, at 6 p.m. and it starts at 6:30. So be sure that you come in time, because if you're too late, you don't get a seat. And it's wonderful, magnificent to see the opening party, because you see all the teams and you get a lot of the Vis Moot feeling. You get the Vis Moot musical performances and the Vis and some speeches, but normally they're shorter than the one which I'm delivering today, and very entertaining. And what is also important, afterwards there's a reception, and that's a wonderful opportunity to interact and to meet your fellow students. So that's the Vis opening reception, which I would definitely recommend you to attend. Then during the Vis Moot, there is the Dachgeschoss, is the top floor of the Juridicum. This is the sort of the hub, the heart, the operational control center of the Vis Moot, and that's where there are some exhibitors with books on display, and that's sort of the meeting point and place to, if you want to, definitely need to see that and visit that. And also some places for teams to sit down and interact and exchange, and you also get some coffee and water to keep you up. Then what I also recommend is the MAA walking tour, which is on, let me check, I don't have the exact dates, on Monday, I think in the evening, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. They meet at the Juridicum at 7 p.m. and it's just a city sightseeing tour, which I think is a good opportunity to get to know Vienna and also get to know your fellow students. Then there is a traditional Viennese dinner afterwards. That is, I think, subject to some cost, but if you want to have a traditional Viennese food, that's also a good thing to register. Then there is a tour to the United Nations. The United Nations, that's on Tuesday afternoon. The United Nations have their UNCITRAL, and they have Vienna is one of the United Nations headquarters, and it's really worthwhile because this is a very impressive complex of buildings which normally are not accessible, and which gives you an idea how a huge international organization as the United Nations are operating. So that's on Tuesday. On Wednesday, between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., our law firm is hosting a event, African the Moot event, and we have all the teams, all the African teams invited, and a few special guests, and it's a great opportunity for all the African teams to interact and exchange the day before the finals. And then on the next day is the farewell party. That's another €10 admission fee. And sorry, that's on the same Wednesday evening, the farewell party. On Thursday, that's the finals. And the finals is also something which is very impressive and definitely worthwhile to watch. It's a huge room because of, I don't know, 3,000-4,000 people coming, and it's in the exhibition hall. And there you see the two final teams arguing, and you can, in front of a few thousand people with cameras, microphones, and loudspeakers, and it has two parts. One is the final, which is open to everybody, so you can just sit there and watch them and admire them because the quality is just unbelievable. And you can stay on, and then after that everybody leaves the room, because then they have the dinner, or the lunch event, which is a ticketed event, and there you have to pay, and only those who pay, there is a small fee. I don't recall how much it is, but only those who have paid will be left in, and that will also be the presentation of the awards, and quite a few speeches, and nice meeting and sitting at your table with your with your team. So those are really the interactions. And coming now a bit from the historic connection of Vienna and international arbitration practice. Vienna has evolved and developed as one of the world's leading arbitration centers. And that started really 1975 when VIAC was founded, and that was exactly 50 years ago. And this year we're celebrating 50 years of VIAC. There will be quite a few events celebrating that. And initially, Vienna was considered to be a neutral place between East and West, because 1975 there was still the Iron Curtain, and it was not. And East and West were separated by a wall, partially. You know or have heard of the Berlin Wall, and they were separated by fences and guarded borders, and there was little interaction, but there were quite a few business dealings, and there were. And Vienna was considered to be one of the few neutral places to resolve disputes. Vienna, Austria, as you may know, is really used to be on the verge of the Iron Curtain. We were the country furthest east in Europe to the countries of other European countries, which were at that time under the communist regimes. And we had, after World War II, it was 10 years that Austria was still occupied by Russia and other countries. And only in 1955 we became a free state. And we still, in order to become free, we had to sign a declaration of independence and neutrality, and to consider ourselves neutral. And that's how really our neutrality started. And that was also a boost for international arbitration. And Vienna has since developed gradually as one of the, I would say, most significant places for international arbitration. We have adopted the UNCITRAL Model Law on international arbitration. And we had a big reform a bit less than 10 years ago when, in setting aside of arbitral awards, the Austrian Supreme Court became the first and last instance, which made annulment actions very efficient, because in many countries, when you annul an award, you have to go through all three instances of court proceedings, which takes quite a long time. And one of the key features of international arbitration is that they're swift. And if that's being impeded by long annulment proceedings, that defeats the purpose. We have in Austria, therefore, made a change of the law, and that makes it much more efficient. Austria also has approximately 250 years of codified arbitration laws. So arbitration has a very, very long tradition in Austria, and we have a huge number of Supreme Court decisions dealing with arbitration and annulment of awards, and many of those I've been dealt with in a book which I've authored on setting aside awards. But it's very stable and clear, and also arbitration friendly case law, and that has also been extremely positive for VIAC, and VIAC developing as one of the world's leading arbitration centers. What VIAC also does, apart from international arbitration, it does local arbitration. I'm just on these are the VIAC rules, and which are just modernized at the beginning of this year. And it also has a very complex, not complex, it has 4 pillars. One is international arbitration. The second is national arbitration. The third one is ISDS, investment arbitration rules. And number 4 is mediation. And for each of the first 3, you have linked mediation rules. And at the beginning of this year, actually, there was a project we worked on last year, not knowing that the Vis case will deal with it. We have modernized our mediation rules in order to provide for rules which are mandatory or which apply in case the parties want to have mandatory mediation, meaning excluding the parties going to arbitration at the same time. And the Austrian Supreme Court has given us some guidance, among others, that there needs to be some parameters in the mediation agreement in order to make it binding, including a deadline, which I understand is not in the Vis case, where the Austrian Supreme Court has said 6 months is the maximum, which is acceptable, where the parties have, where the parties agree to try and find a solution via mediation, and that I think is one of the challenging aspects of the Vis Moot, that there is no deadline here stated, which creates some room for debate. Now, maybe we can show the PDF now, and then I come to the, because we've just touched the Vis Moot case, and then I can.
Yes. For all of the mooties, and also for all the arbitrators, in case some coaches are watching as well, I think the infamous Pitkowitz cheat sheet, I think, has helped a great deal of people to get a very good overview of the case in case they haven't looked at the case file properly yet. And I think even for participants who have been looking at the case file quite a lot, it provides a great overview, having everything on just, one single page.
So where's Fernando? Can you please? Oh, yes, here he is. Thank you very much. Show us the cheat sheet. So when the Vis started, the case was actually very simple. It was a few pages and a few issues. It always was a procedural and a substantive issue. Procedural issue dealing with the rules, and a substantive issue dealing with the CISG. But given that there are more and more teams, the case necessarily had to be more complex. In the first Vis Moots, when I was arbitrating, the teams, some of the teams had the very first presentation at the final, so they never practiced. And here today, every team typically has a number of internal practice rounds and premoots, and there's so many premoots here. I don't know how many premoots, Vinny, the teams you had when you were participating, and how many premoots you had, Silke, when you participated, but I would assume at least 5 or more.
Way more than that. Way more than that.
Unfortunately, I participated during COVID, so all of them were online, but we did at least 3.
Yeah. So this is why the case is getting so complex, because of the many premoots, and because otherwise it would be boring for the teams and the arbitrators if they had to talk about the same simple case just for a few times. And we have started, I don't know how long it is, but probably definitely more than 10 years ago. I thought it would be helpful to have a cheat sheet and try to summarize the entire case on one page. And you can download this cheat sheet at our website, www.pitkowitz.com, or using the QR code on the top. And we give it also to the arbitrators. So many arbitrators use that. And that brings me to the different participants here. We have over 350 teams coming. I don't have the exact number of this year, but it could be close to 400 teams. The Vis Moot does not limit the number of teams. There are other teams which do other competitions which do qualification rounds, but the Vis Moot permits every team to participate, which I think is one of the great benefits. But of course, it means that it's growing and growing, and the teams are coming from all over the world. Then there are approximately, I mean, every team, not every team, but most team has coaches. Some team have several coaches. So the teams come together with the coaches. And then we have the arbitrators. We have over 1,000 arbitrators. Those are professionals who just come to Vienna to have that opportunity to work together with the teams and to see and participate in this wonderful event. And I think this is one of the, and a good friend and colleague has come to the Moot for, I think, 25 years, I would imagine. And he said, and I quote him, "The Moot is one of the highlights of my professional year." And I think this is something for many arbitration practitioners the case. And for me, it's also a highlight, I must say. And he states, and I think he's very right, what makes it one of the highlights. One is witnessing the collegiality between the students. That's wonderful, how they work together, how they argue against each other, but in a very collegial and professional and friendly team. The other one is seeing the remarkable advocacy skills of the students. This is also definitely unbelievable how great the skills of the students are, given that these are your all students, and we as professionals admire you and that you have achieved those skills at your age, and without most of you without any professional experience. And just seeing the performance, also performance very often in situations where you have to adapt to a new situation, where you turns out that you have to change the sequence or even swap sides from one side to another. Hearing the remarkable witty responses to the students to poor questions from the arbitrators, and this is something you have to be prepared. There are some of the arbitrators, even if they come a long way, they're not well prepared. And that's one of the tasks of our cheat sheet. We want them to be better prepared, also the arbitrators, because they don't take the time to read the entire case, which will cost them a day. And it's really a lot of work to get prepared well. And some have only one or twice opportunities to arbitrate, so they think it's not worthwhile reading everything. So that is, they may ask lousy questions, and then you have to be prepared for witty answers. And it's what I find so special is the team building, the collegiality, and the skills which you achieve, which you normally don't get educated at university. So I think, and that's what I told my children, and they confirmed, it's the single most rewarding university program they will ever do, and they ever did. Yeah, I see nodding, which is positive because of that. So many skills which you train: the teamwork, the interaction, the social interactions among different cultures, among different degrees of personalities, put this in a polite way. They're very senior, arrogant arbitrators, some young, arrogant, some young, friendly. Most of them are very friendly. You don't have to be afraid, but it's just, I mean, some students are just scared by the seniority. So those are, I think, really the highlights. And this now brings me to my conclusion, that I can really congratulate you having made it, and hopefully you will make it to come to Vienna. It's still a path to come, and I know there are also some bureaucratic hurdles, especially for African teams, which we're working in UNCITRAL is very helpful to overcome. But I wish you a wonderful, rewarding time, and now I stand open to any questions anyone may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pitkowitz. I think we're currently trying to scan the comment section if any comments have appeared, but we also have an African Moot chat, and I see some comments that were raised there. And I think one of our students is interested to know in which ways you would think that the Vis Moot prepares students for real-world arbitration cases, and what are some key qualities our students could take away from doing the Vis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's an excellent question, and that is actually an objective of the Vis Moot, to prepare the students for real life. So it starts with the submissions. And if your submissions have to be prepared in a focused in a teamwork, so you have to allocate, and this is something which you have to do in a law firm. Normally, you work in a team, and you have to be able to work in a team and to establish a work product of a team within a deadline. So this is something which you have in day-to-day arbitration, that you deal with tasks which you have to complete as a team. You have to complete within a time limit, which is normally too short. And you have to digest a lot of information, which is normally too much to be able to properly digest. So those are the typical obstacles which you're dealing with in real life. You also have the your coaches sometimes helping you, sometimes less. What you don't have in the preparation is the client, because you in the real cases you have a client whom you have to interact and who may have an entirely different view on strategy and pleadings as you have. So you have one advantage, that you do this without the client. But that's the first part, is the submission, the timing. And the second part is the oral, the finals, and also the premoots, where you have to prepare yourself to be able to orally present your cases. And this is something which you don't learn at most universities, that you present your case, and you have to answer questions to your case. And that is something which some of the arbitrators take extremely serious, and they ask you lots and lots of really difficult questions. They sit silently. Some of the British arbitrators, they don't. There's a joke saying that the British in real life arbitration, some British arbitrators only interfere when it comes to ordering the cookie type and the tea sort for the tea break, but that is not true for all of them. But there are some different types of arbitrators. Some are interfering and asking a question. They're very different questions. Some want to understand the background, some want to understand the reasoning, some going into depth. Some are very technical. If you quote something, they just want to know what the case is you quoted, the case number you quoted, when it was published, opposing cases, etc. So there is and this prepares you also for real life, because in real life, when you are presenting, you have to be aware to a tribunal, you have to be aware whom you are confronted with. Of course, you don't have that much opportunity to prepare for your arbitrators, but that's in real life, you have more time normally to prepare for that. And then another thing is opposing counsel. And of course, you're debating. Sometimes I see the teams heavily opposing against each other, and I tell them, you're not opposing against each other. You want to present your case to the tribunal, because the tribunal will have to decide who's right, and the other side is arguing with you, but you need to interact with the tribunal, and you need to make them understand that your case is the proper one. And this is something which is also, I think, extremely helpful, just to understand, to read the three arbitrators, to understand if they have understood you properly. And of course, this is all under time constraints, and the need to also answer to questions. So I think it has many very useful aspects for real life, and this is why it is such an important recruiting event, and many students put that on their CV. And if I have somebody who applies for us and I see that they participated in the Vis Moot, I know this is a sort of gold standard for arbitration practitioners.
You have captured quite aptly how the Vis Moot is beneficial to students and how there's so much they can take away from it. But to look at the other side of it, while the Vis Moot is meant to be an educational experience for the students, for the mootees, is there anything you think practitioners can learn and take away from the Vis Moot?
That's also another excellent question. I think practitioners can and should learn a lot, and this is why I enjoy so much being part of it. And what we see and I see is novel approaches into presentations, a lot of creativity in presenting the cases. And I think one point is, and that's very important also for real life. If you present a case, you also present a story. It's not only the law, it's a package. So you have to convince, you don't only address the brain of your arbitrators, but you also have to address their heart, and they have to understand you. And this is something which I find immensely impressive by many students, how they do this, how they collegially work with each other. And this is something which is being also watched by the arbitrators, whether there is a teamwork among the arbitrators, which I think many practitioners can take as an example for their work. So I think there's so many, and what I think also is very impressive is the curiosity of the students, that they ask questions, they want to interact, they want to interfere, and I think this is something which is very important, and some practitioners sometimes lose this curiosity feeling.
Well, that was a very beautiful answer to that question. I really liked the way you answered it with, getting to know your tribunal and also getting to interact with them, not only on a case level, but also on a personal level. I think that is highly important in order to perform well. I see a question where some of our students have been wondering, you know quite a few of the main arbitration hubs all around the world.
Yeah.
How would you say, what makes Vienna special in your eyes?
So when you look at an arbitration hub, it's like in a real arbitration, what I said, there are hard facts and soft facts. The hard facts is the law, the environment. The soft facts is the place, the story. So starting with the hard facts, Vienna's UNCITRAL Model Law. Vienna has 250 years of codified arbitration history and a very stable and long line of Supreme Court decision, a very arbitration-friendly environment. It is cost-wise less costly, put it like this, than other places, as let's say New York, London, Paris. It's very well, and both when it comes to venues, but also to the law firm hourly rates, I must say, are not as high as in other countries around the world. And it comes it also the sort of the housing, etc. It's extremely well reachable in the center of Europe, so anybody can. And we have Vienna is a hub for a very popular airport and busy airport. And as to the soft facts, I can only say Vienna is constantly voted the most livable city in the world, and it's certainly a beautiful city. And you will, when you come to Vienna, you'll see it. It's just fantastic. It's a great place to be. And if you want to go and arbitrate, even though you spend, I spent the entire last week in an arbitration hearing here in Vienna and didn't see a lot outside, but I mean, you hear the carriages and the horses wandering around, and you see the people, and you see a lot of the historic tradition, and it's really beautiful city. We have lots of hiking trails around it, the Vienna forest, which is a huge forest with some hills around it, the Danube. So it's just a wonderful place to be.
I totally agree. The first time I visited Vienna, I was taken away by how beautiful it was and how walkable the city is. I am a fan of your public transport system. So we have a question here, which is more towards your arbitrating style. In your years of arbitrating at the Vis Moot, do you prefer to be on tribunals that are hot or cold? And for you directly, do you consider yourself an arbitrator who asks a lot of questions, or do you prefer to hear the students' arguments and pepper in a few questions?
I ask questions. I always ask questions, and I think it's important for me to understand, have some follow up, because first of all, I think it's positive also to engage with the students by means of questions. So sometimes students ask me, so why did I get so many questions? I say, well, you should be proud of it, because it demonstrates that the tribunal wanted to interchange with you and interact with you. And it's a way of communicating with the teams. I try to ask questions which are, normally I don't ask the case numbers and technical questions, but I try to ask questions which help me generally understand the case and understand the arguments, because the cases are so complex that there are different ways of presenting the arguments for the teams. There's not only one uniform way where you can present, and so there are different styles and different types. So I would be asking question that I don't necessarily ask. It depends on the team, and also depends on the level of the Vis Moot. So when you come in the general rounds, I would normally ask fewer questions than in the qualification rounds. And in the general rounds, I think it's more, and depends on also if it's the first round, I would give the teams more an opportunity to present their case and ask only very few questions, and so that because they have to warm up and they have to be able to really present their case and get accommodated to time and the environment. And if the more rounds the teams have, typically the more questions I would be asking. I don't know what you mean by hot or cold, but
usually students get intimidated by panels that ask a lot of questions. So we will consider that a hot panel. And then you have the panels that won't ask any questions, or maybe very few, and that's considered a cold or a cool panel.
Yeah, I would not consider it hot and intimidating. I think it's positive for the students to get questions, and you shouldn't see that as intimidation, because it means that the tribunal would like to follow up with you and would like to engage with you, and consider that positive. Sometimes if I don't ask any questions, or if arbitrators don't ask any questions, it depends, of course, of the background, but that may indicate that they don't consider that the team can answer them, so they don't ask them in the first place. But if you have confidence that the team can answer your question and you can engage with them, I think then it's a positive sign to get questions. But I agree, the questions is one of the challenges for the students during this during their presentations.
Well, I fully resonate with what you're saying, because I think questions are a great way to showcase your knowledge as a student, because by way of answering questions, you can showcase your knowledge of the case, your knowledge of the law. And I think it also helps to see that as a possibility, instead of being, I know it's very hard not to be afraid of questions. I used to be terrified of questions, but seeing them as an opportunity to showcase your knowledge really, really helps. Dr. Pitkowitz, we have taken up a lot of your time, but would you have time to answer one more question?
Sure.
Wonderful. A student is asking, what is it about arbitrating at the Vis that makes you continue to volunteer as an arbitrator, and what makes you come back year after year? And also he adds, thank you for being involved and supporting us.
Well, for me, it's as I try to convey a wonderful experience, and it's an opportunity also. And I must say that in my firm, it's not myself alone. It's our team. We have now we have 3 of my team of our team are together with the students of the, I think it's a VU and potential another team. We're doing a mock round, and and we're helping and coaching with the preparation of the submissions. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to interact with the students, and also to not only, I think that makes our profession as lawyers so fascinating, that we're not only advising as client, we have the opportunity and the liberty to also do things which are close to our heart, and which give us an opportunity to interact and meet wonderful students from all around the world. And I think all these just relationships, opportunities, and encounters, they're so fascinating. We had, for example, there was a very popular team we do a Vis Moot pre-moot at our firm since many years, where we have 12 teams. This year we also invited a team from Africa to be participating, and we had a long time we invited the team from Mexico, because they were giving everybody in my firm said we need to invite them because they're hosting the Mexican tequila party, and it's so difficult to get invitation to the tequila party because that's the funniest event, which is done by the Mexican team. And then we had the Korean team, which was doing a wonderful. They had a star singer who was giving a performance, who was one of the team, and then we had the team from the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and they were 10, and we asked them to present themselves, and they came at our pre-moot, and 10 of them stood up and they were explaining how much it means for their team to be participating in the Vis Moot, and how they all work together over several past Vis Moot years to assist each other. So I think for me, it's every time it's really one of the highlights of the year, and this is why I love to do it, and I definitely do it for many more years.
Dr. Pitkowitz, we want to say thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you for sharing your insights with the students, all the way from the history of the Vis Moot, how it interacts with Vienna being a popular seat for arbitration, and also the social aspects of the Vis Moot that we should look out for and we should enjoy. I trust that our viewers, mooties, coaches, arbitrators have taken something away from this session, and I look forward to meeting you, Dr. Pitkowitz, seeing you, Silke, and hopefully many more in Vienna. Thank you all, and have a good rest of your day or night. Goodbye.
Goodbye, and thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to also share some of my thoughts. Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Bye.